Now we are starting with our today's discussion, RH isoimmunization. I would like to invite Dr. Rohini Deshpande ma'am. She is as we all know, consultant gynecologist at Ramakrishna Hospital, Solapur. She is immediate past president AMOX 2018-20, the Association of Maharashtra Obstetrics and Gynecological Societies, zonal chairperson IMLEA, Indian Medico-Legal Ethical Association, national mentor for the Laksh program, core committee member, mission, Save the Uterus, and SOPs on hysterectomy, companion of Laksh Manyata for private hospitals, PG teacher at Ashwini Kumbhari Hospital, Solapur, scientific publications on operative hysteroscopy and color Doppler in PIH. She has presented orations and academic lectures at state and national level. Thank you, ma'am. Also, I would like to invite Dr. Shweta Gugai, ma'am. She is MBBS, MS OBGY, and DNB OBGY. She is consultant fetal medicine at KM Hospital, Pune. Her interest in fetal imaging drew her to Mediscan Systems, Chennai, where she gained a fellowship in fetal medicine. She currently pursues her passion, fetal medicine and fetal therapy at KM Hospital and Pune Fetal Care Center, and has a special interest in multifetal gestation, first trimester imaging and fetal intervention. Over to you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite our panelist for the discussion, Dr. Keval Patil sir, Dr. Milind Shah sir, Dr. Ankita Deshmukh, Dr. Raviraj Gonkar sir, welcome sir. He is a MBBS, MS OBGY at KM Hospital, Mumbai. He is a consultant fetal medicine, Vasuraksha Fetal Medicine Center at Kolhapur. He is a member of Fetal Medicine Foundation. He is a member of International Society of Ultrasound in Obstetrics and Gynecology. He is also a member of Kolhapur Medical Association and Kolhapur Obstetric Gynecology Society and FOXY. He is a former associate professor, Department of OBGY, RCSM Government Medical College and CPR Hospitals, Kolhapur. He has presented a paper on U-suture, a life-saving compression suture in AICOG 2013. He has multiple presentations in journal clubs, weekly clinical meetings, in-house subspecialty discussions during tenure in Mediscan Systems, Chennai. He has also presented a poster on retrospective analysis of fetogram in chondrodysplasia punctata. He has an original article on observational study comparing cervical ripening and induction of labor with intravaginal mesoprostol against transcervical Foley's catheter in indexed JAM DSR journal in 2018, original article on study of maternal and perinatal outcomes in multiple pregnancy in indexed JM DSR journal in 2018. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
I think Dr. Ankita is here. And Dr. Pooja. I invite Dr. Pooja.
I invite Dr. Ankita Deshmukh, madam. She has a professional experience of fellowship in advanced obstetrics and gynec ultrasound from Mediscan Systems. She has also a fellowship in gynec endoscopy. She is a founder member of the Fetal Brain Society. We welcome you, ma'am. Dr. Pooja Pable. Madam also has a fellowship in advanced ultrasound and she's an FMF UK certified consultant. She is currently practicing at KM Hospital and Umang IVF Center and Cloud9 Hospitals.
प्रार्थना पण है ना.
Pratna. Dr. Pratna Shah. Madam has a specialization in high-risk obstetrics and fetal medicine and 12 years of experience with this field. She is the first fetal medicine consultant of the Marathwada region, and she has now, till now, successfully completed more than 1,500 fetal invasive procedures. We welcome you, ma'am. Dr. Saket Thakur. He is a fetal medicine consultant and intervention specialist practicing in Pune. She is one of the proud alumni of the most prestigious institutions of the country and has completed a master's in radio diagnosis from Amrita Medical Institutes of Kochi with a special mentorship by Dr. Pratima Radhakrishnan Madam. He subsequently has acquired all the certifications of FMM, and he is very passionate about his fetal medicine and image-guided interventions and is totally committed to his field. We welcome you, sir. Ma'am, Dr. Manoj Jadhav, sir, is not joining us because he will be coming a little late.
Okay.
So I think we can start with the panel discussion. Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Milind Shah for this great scientific feast that he has given us of this conference, Fetus as a Patient. And I really appreciate your presence as a panelist and the audience as well. This subject of Rh isoimmunization is very, very close to my heart, and I would like to dedicate this to late Dr. V.N. Shirodkar and Dr. Srikhande, who performed the first exchange transfusion in Maharashtra, and to my parents as well. And my mother was the one who was victim of this Rh isoimmunization. When she had me for the first time, that was way back in 1960, you can imagine. And she was given, she had a cesarean section and she was given blood transfusion. And that was a Rh positive. And later she had multiple preterm births and babies, unfortunately she lost the babies. And later on, she was taken to Dr. V.N. Shirodkar, where he diagnosed that it could be probably Rh incompatibility. And he did a very early preterm cesarean section for my sister, and she was born hydrox. And she was saved by Dr. Srikhande, who did a first exchange transfusion. So here we are in 2024, still struggling to get over this problem of Rh isoimmunization. But the difference is, at that time it was exchange transfusion, but now with the advent of science, technology, recent advances in ultrasonography, then doing antibody titers, the labs, and the awareness, this all has contributed to early diagnosis. And of course the intrauterine therapy as well. But still, we are struggling to get over. So we are here to discuss with this. Dr. Saket, can we start with you? Can you just tell us the overview of the pathophysiology? No, you have to go back. Can you just explain in brief the pathophysiology of hemolytic disease of fetus and newborn? It is called as a HDFN. That's the terminology that we are using. So how can be the immune response of this Rh negative individual to Rh positive cells? Yes, please.
So the commonest, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's always nice to come to Solapur, which is my mom's place. And so I'll just get straight to the topic. So the commonest combination we see in Rh isoimmunized pregnancies or Rh alloimmunized pregnancies is a positive negative couple. That is a Rh negative woman and a Rh positive partner. So when a baby is formed, most of the times, in majority of the cases, the baby's blood group will be positive, and the positive blood group in turn will incite an antibody response once the blood gets mixed with the maternal blood during a feto-maternal hemorrhage episode, which generally happens at the time of the first delivery or the first cesarean section. So that's the commonest scenario. And then these antigens from the baby will incite an antibody response in the mother, and anti-IgM antibodies will be produced within the maternal bloodstream. So even if the feto-maternal hemorrhage is happening earlier in pregnancy, the antibodies are still IgM, which cannot cross the placental barrier. So the first pregnancy will always be uneventful in such case. As the time progresses, the IgM antibodies will be replaced by IgG antibodies, which are able to cross the feto-maternal barrier. And when the next time, in the next pregnancy, when the baby's blood group is again a positive blood group, these IgG antibodies from the mother will cross the placental barrier and enter into the fetus, causing hemolysis of the fetal red blood cells. This will lead to fetal anemia, and which will have further complications like cardiac failure followed by a hydros fetalis.
Dr. Pooja, does fetal sex play any role in fetal response to produce maternal antibodies?
No, ma'am.
No? Anybody else? Anybody from audience? Yes, it's been stated that males, they suffer more and they have, more response than the females. That's why if you have a head drops in males, their morbidity and mortality can be more. Okay, Ankita, is it possible to know rhesus type of fetus prenatally? Is there any way?
Yes, ma'am. We can know the type of rhesus in prenatally by testing the circulating of cell-free fetal DNA. It is just now coming to India. It is a new technique that it has been introduced in India these days, but I'm not sure how accurate it is. If you
No, it is. Yes, anybody else?
Yeah, definitely it is accurate because we are testing the gene level. The presence of genotype is what we are looking here. If the genes are there, that means the fetus is positive. That's why we can do it with the.
has a 98% sensitivity.
That's what we say even for amnio.
Pooja, you want to say something?
So the MedGenome lab in India is very close.
Yeah.
So MedGenome lab, which is in Bangalore, they do it, and up to 98%
Yeah, there.
sensitivity is what they quote, or accuracy is what they quote. So yes, as she said, cell-free fetal DNA we can send for the RNA typing and MedGenome lab as well.
Yeah.
Preferably should be done after 12 weeks of pregnancy because before 10 weeks the fetal DNA fraction will be less in mother. So the good time is to do after a good NT scan.
So I think doing this prenatally, that will help to know whether, these patients have to be followed up more
And
religiously.
I would like to add one more point. If at all we are doing an invasive procedure for some other indication in any such pregnancy, like the commonest indication is screen positive in the combined first trimester screening. If you are doing a CVS, we can directly go for a RH isotyping, a genotyping, which is going to be a 100% accurate test, much better than a cell-free DNA.
Yeah,
And
but
that
it
will
is
give us an
sometimes
idea and put the mother off the surveillance radar or on the surveillance radar based on that particular test very early in pregnancy, especially when in cases where there's a dilemma whether she's going to require a close follow-up or not.
Yeah, but this could be, as she said, cell-free DNA, it could be a less invasive, like practically non-invasive test. Anyway, so now we are coming to some case scenarios. A young primary gravida has presented to antenatal clinic at 8 weeks of pregnancy and confirmed to have AB-RH negative blood group. Dr. Gonkar, how do we manage this pregnancy?
Yes, ma'am. If in this case we can go for indirect Coombs test in that particular patient. If ICT is negative at that time, it's always better to repeat it at around 28 to 30 weeks of gestation. But if she is ICT positive, it's always better to go for RH titer. That RH titer will give us idea to whether she has crossed any critical titer level. If at all, in this case, we can decide the management or further course of action, or further we can plan how frequently we are going to monitor her.
So in first pregnancy, how will you monitor her? Like how frequently?
Ma'am, these days MCA PSV Dopplers we can do. We can start it at as early as 16 to 18 weeks of gestation. And if ICT negative or something, we can follow up as a routine as any other pregnancy. And we can repeat RH titer or ICT again at 28 to 30 weeks.
So what if the husband blood group is B negative?
That's what I was going to ask. The history part, the two components here. One is husband's blood group, and second is history of blood transfusion. Because as we discussed
my
earlier,
question is, what if husband is B negative and mother is AB negative? Will you still do ICT?
no, that's why the history
We will
part.
do ICT still, ma'am.
Yeah.
Because there could be non-rhesus type of antibodies.
Correct.
The possibility is always there. So in these days, they are recommending to do ICT in all Rh negative women, irrespective of the blood group of the husband.
Absolutely.
That's a very much.
Yes, ma'am. If you permit, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Yesterday only I had a patient, both mother and father negative, but the baby has turned out to be positive.
Yeah.
That time I
And,
went to the literature. It is known, very rare, but it is known that the baby can be positive.
Yeah, in India, we can have scenarios where there must be, over-the-counter abortions before the marriage, and not necessarily the biological father is the husband of the baby.
No, but even theoretically also, if both mother and father are negative, the baby
Yeah.
can be positive.
Absolutely, because the father can be heterozygous.
Anything else, Dr. Ankita, would you like to do maybe at around 30, 32 weeks for this lady?
Yeah, we can give, if she's ICT negative, we still can give anti-D injection, prophylactic antenatal anti-D injection, the dose being 300 microgram at that time, single shot we can give her. And again, postnatally after delivery, depending on the baby's blood group, we can decide whether to give another injection of anti-D.
And Prathana, just a recap on when she's in labor.
Yes.
It's okay. I'll place this. Yes, please.
So, if we are given the prophylactic dose around 28 weeks, then definitely we don't have to repeat a dose even if she is going till term, that means till 40 weeks. There is no need to repeat a second dose of anti-D. And after delivery, we know that around the time of delivery, whether it is normal or it is a cesarean, there is a 100% chance of matofetal hemorrhage. But we are still not doing the Kleehofer Betke test here. That's why we are universally covering a 300 dose within 72 hours of delivery in all pregnant women.
And what type of anti-D will you do? Like at the moment, what type of anti-D have you got? Previously, it was a polyclonal,
Monoclonal, polyclonal.
Okay. Yeah, we have only the monoclonal one now. The one which is now we call as not the natural source one.
Okay, meanwhile, if I could just make one point about negative couple or a positive mother. So the current guidelines, I mean, though it's not in most of the guidelines, but ICT is recommended in all the pregnant women at booking, whether it be Rh positive or Rh negative, because there can be typical antibodies which can still cause ICT positive in a Rh positive couple or a Rh positive woman with a Rh negative husband, whatever the combination is. So ICT is recommended at booking in all the pregnancies, like a double marker test what we do. So, and when the ICT comes positive, the next step is to do a complete maternal antibody identification in that particular test, in that particular pregnancy, because not all antibodies which are causing ICT positive status are significant antibodies. Some can be weak antibodies which may not require surveillance whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that's the next step we can do after doing our ICT in all the pregnant women at booking.
Yeah, it's a good point. Now this patient, actually, she has gone somewhere else and she's delivered. And there is no record whatsoever whether she has received anti-D or not. And we presume that she has not received anti-D. But she comes back at around 4 weeks postnatal to show the baby. So what will you do? Dr. Ankita?
No, this is different. This is different.
Ma'am, even till 4 weeks or 28 days postnatally, we can give the
You
anti-D.
can give anti-D. So up to 5 weeks we can still give. So that's one thing. It may not be very effective, but still we can give
Yes,
it.
ma'am. So we should give her that chance.
Okay, then she has another pregnancy somewhere else again. and that was a preterm labor, so she delivers at around 27 weeks. And she has lost the baby because of extreme prematurity. Now, third time she comes at around 19 weeks to you, Dr. Pooja. And you do an anomaly scan, and it is normal. So anything else that you will be looking for in her?
During scan,
Yes.
MCA Doppler only or any other polyhydramnios is there? Any chances of RH immunization?
And if it is normal, what will you do?
I will ask them to do ICT, indirect Coombs test first. And if it is negative, then we will monitor her 4 weekly with MCA Doppler only. And if it is positive, we'll do the titers, ICT titers.
Okay, anybody else? Dr. Raviraj?
Ma'am, irrespective of all scenarios, what my opinion is, if she is ICT negative case, we should have our own unit protocol. She has ICT negative, it should be followed by the titer, and depending on the titer and the monitoring, whatever we are getting on MCA PSV Dopplers, we need to monitor her thoroughly throughout her pregnancy.
Okay.
Just one thing I wanted to add here is whenever we ask for MCA Doppler, what happens with many radiologists is they give the umbilical and the MCA values, where the chart says PI value, PSV value, RI value. But the calculation of MCA, PSV mom is very much important. And the gynecologist, if they ask for, then the radiologist will provide that information. So sometimes that is very important to look at, because we have seen cases where at the mom value of 1.3 also, the fetus has started showing features of hydrops in the second or third pregnancies. And that's why the monitoring part, what sir said is ICT is negative doesn't mean always that the fetus will not have any anemia.
And even scan being normal, ICT being normal, still it doesn't mean anything. You have to do the antibody titers. And what will you do, like suppose it's 1.5 times mom value?
1.5 mom indicates that the fetal anemia is there. Only thing is it is just mild to moderate range. So not necessary that the fetus will show the features of hydrops on sonography, which in fact we are trying to avoid. We should not reach that stage. So once the fetus is showing a mom of 1.5, it is an indicator that we need to plan a fetal transfusion in this fetus.
Right. So nothing justifies a fetal loss from this condition because it is prevented with anti-D. It can be monitored with ICT and MCA PSV, and it can be treated with IUTs. So let's go on to the cases. Now she is 25-year-old primigravida. She is 18 weeks pregnancy. She is RH negative and husband is RH positive. So Saket, what will you do next?
As we have already discussed, we would have already done the ICT at booking.
You will do ICT.
Yes.
Right. So at the first visit, we do the booking ICT. Now she's done her booking ICT. Booking ICT is negative. Then what do we do next? When do we call her next?
So in the mid-trimester, we again repeat ICT.
Right. At what gestation?
At around 20-22 weeks, we can repeat ICT. If
So-
the ICT is done earlier at booking, we can repeat the ICT at around 22 weeks.
Yeah. So 28 weeks we would repeat the ICT. Now 28 weeks ICT is negative. Pooja, what will we do?
ICT is negative, still we'll monitor this and
Anybody else?
monitor only with MCA Doppler.
At 28 weeks, what
Injection
will you do?
anti-D, prophylactic dose.
Correct.
Very much important to remember that once we are given anti-D, please do not repeat ICT.
Yes, absolutely. So how does anti-D work, Ankita?
Basically, ma'am, if there are immunoglobulins present in the maternal blood, the anti-D will mask the immunoglobulin, so
Yes.
it will not be crossing over to the fetus, and it will prevent the fetal hemolysis.
So basically what the anti-D will do is, it will line the RBCs, fetal RBCs, so mother's immune system is not exposed to that. So mother's immune system will not produce immunoglobulins. So now why do we give anti-D at 28 weeks, Raviraj?
Chance of feto-maternal hemorrhage before 28 weeks is very rare.
Correct.
It's and 28 weeks at which usually it starts. So that is a time where we are preferring antenatal anti-D, prophylactic anti-D.
Yeah, so placenta is the barrier and it protects most of the times. So maximum crossing takes place in third trimester and then after delivery 100%. So that is the 2 times we give NTD. Now, there's no obstetrician here. You. Pratna.
Yes.
What are the sensitizing events in the pregnancy?
Starting from first trimester, miscarriage after 10 weeks of pregnancy, any fetal invasive procedures, any ectopic pregnancies, any IUDs, or what we call as
Tropoplastic disease.
at the time of delivery, if anyone is planning external cephalic version, these are the common sensitizing events.
Yeah, and what precaution you will take during delivery? If the mother is RH negative. I have forgotten my OB.
Injection methargin we should not give. Injection methargin we should not give.
Right,
Early cord clamp.
Cord clamping is, yeah.
yeah,
Annual removal of placenta should not be done.
right. So okay. Now we go to the next case. She's a second gravida, RH negative, husband RH positive, previous normal delivery, she has taken anti-D, okay, under supervision rightly given. Present pregnancy, she is again ICT positive at 24 weeks. What could be the reason? Raviraj?
Yeah, the reason could be so many. Means whether previous NTD was given in right doses at right time and by right method.
Absolutely.
That is important thing. What we are preferring is to give NTD to be given in the deltoid muscle, and
Yes.
that too within 72 hours after delivery.
Absolutely.
So how it was administered will be the first thing.
Yeah. So make no mistake, NTD has to be given deep IM in the deltoid. Okay. Now there's going to be rapid fire on NTD. So you need to just pass on the mics. One question. Okay. So is there any alternative for deltoid?
You can give it in the anterolateral aspect of the thigh.
Absolutely.
That's
Can you give IV?
No.
Is informed consent necessary?
Verbal consent, yes.
Yeah, it's a blood product, so you need to give the consent. So is anti-D required after complete mole or partial mole evacuation?
For complete mole, ideally speaking, not required, but it's always better to give NTD in that case scenario also.
Yeah, so whenever in doubt, just give it out. In case of threatened abortion, first time you give anti-D, okay? Again she bleeds. Will you give her anti-D?
If it bleeds in 3 weeks, we should not give.
Yeah.
It is effective.
We can take almost till 8 weeks. Till 8 weeks, there is no need to repeat a second dose.
Okay, or what you can do is, suppose if she comes with threatened abortion and you give anti-D, you can do ICT. Okay? So if ICT is negative, that means the anti-D has gone. And then you can repeat the anti-D. Okay? This is one method you can give, otherwise you can follow your protocol. So she's done amnio at 16 weeks and anti-D is given. Okay, so again at 28 weeks, will you give anti-D?
yes, of course. We should not omit the antenatal immunoprophylaxis. at any
Absolutely.
cost. Yeah.
So will ICT be positive after anti-D injection?
Yes.
But what will be the titer?
Titer will be less than critical titer.
Yeah, it will be always less than 1:4. Okay. So if the lady has had her antenatal prophylaxis at 28 weeks, and if she delivers at 32 weeks, will she need again the anti-D? My answer is
Definitely yes. Definitely yes.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Okay. If ICT is positive, will you give anti-D? See, all these questions are important because patient comes to us as a second opinion with so much of anxiety. Because ICT is positive, no history is taken of anti-D, and anti-D titers, ICT titers are not done. So you should make no mistake in ICT and anti-D, right?
Yes, you
One
want to say
point.
something?
If ICT is positive, we need to be very sure about what antibody is causing that ICT positive.
Absolutely, we'll
fetus.
come to that.
Yeah.
It's there.
Because if it's a non-anti-D antibody, anti-D is still indicated in that case.
Yeah. Now, same patient, okay? She has ICT positive and her titers done outside was 1:64. So is this the critical titer, Pooja?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ankita, what is
Bad.
critical titer?
One and one.
No, how will you define a critical titer? I mean, here there are people who will want to know how will you define a critical titer?
Because this is time when we want to refer them to fetal medicine specialist, right?
Critical titer usually is the titer at which hemolysis, chance of hemolysis are there. Only knowing titer is not important. What we think is
Wait, let me come to that. Okay, so below which there is no fetal hemolysis. That is the critical titer. And mostly in our country it is 1:16. Okay. Now, once the critical titer is reached, will you repeat her ICT after 4 weeks?
Better to monitor with MCA-PSV rather than just repeating the titers.
Okay. Now, same like yours, this obstetrician also told her, monitor Baba, 2 weekly you do MCA Doppler. So, right now she was 18 weeks, 2 weeks she is going to come till 36 weeks. You know how many visits she is going to make to us.
Not necessary 2 weeks, basically that is not the protocol that it should be 2 weekly. We have to see the baseline MCA-PSV. That gives us clue. If the MCA-PSV is 0.9,
Yeah,
she is
but
not
this
going to reach
obstetrician-
1.5 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but this obstetrician say, Baba, 2 weekly karo, हमें miss नहीं करना है कुछ. Okay? So, in our hospital, we have a protocol that we will repeat the ICT again. Okay? So, ICT is repeated by 2 methods, that is tube method and gel method. And दोनों के titers अलग रहते हैं. So, Pooja, what is the titer of tube method and gel method? Critical titer.
In tube method, it is 1:4, and in 1:16, and in gel it is 1:32.
64. 1:64, okay. So this lady, up till delivery, her MCA-PSV was normal and never in anemic range. Why? Now, Raviraj, your point will come.
That's the same thing because the critical titer for tube method is 1:16, and for that of gel method is 3 to 4 times, means 1:64. She has not crossed that critical titer.
Absolutely.
So in that case, if at all she would have come to us and her critical titer by tube method would have been like 1:16. 1:4.
Yeah.
We would have repeated the titer after 4 weeks.
Yes.
Till she crosses that critical titer level, and then we could have, once she crosses that particular level,
Then we'll put her under radar.
Under radar. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's
And,
very important to know, whether it is a tube or whether it is a gel.
and the labs do mention in their report by which method they have done. Okay, so you have to see that. Now, second thing what we need to do is antibody screening. Okay, so this patient we did the antibody screening and it was anti-E antibody and not anti-D antibody. Okay, so that is one more reason why she is not developed anemia still. So what is the immunogenicity in the RH panel? From D to E, which is the most immunogenic? D. And which is the least immunogenic? E. So hence she has not developed anemia. Okay.
If we would have anti-E, then we would have given her anti-D prophylaxis.
Yes.
That's why they have categorized them into, hyper responders,
Non-responders.
non-responders, as well as hypo-responders. So
Yeah.
this is what we have to remember.
So the protocol should be do ICT, see by which method they have done the ICT, see the titers, and if facilities are available, do antibody identification. So what will this do? This will save the number of visits, number of scans, the cost involved, and more important is the anxiety the patient will have. Okay, so this is the protocol. Coming on to the next case. Now she is 25-year-old, 4th gravida, RH negative, 26 weeks pregnancy with hydrops fetalis. She had come to terminate the pregnancy. Now her previous pregnancy was full-term normal delivery, then a miscarriage, and then a baby received exchange transfusion after birth. So in all her pregnancy, she has received anti-D. So she had come to us for scan. So Pooja, can you explain the scan findings?
In first image, there is ascites, dilated portal vein.
Yeah. Placenta?
Placenta is larger. Placentomegaly, you can see. Here is the second image, cardiomegaly. Fourth image, MCA Doppler. This way not so. Yeah. Tricuspid regurgitation is there, and hepatosplenomegaly.
So, Raviraj, MCA Doppler,
दिसत नाही आहे.
26 weeks, and MCA PSV is around 56.
Usually there is a thumb of rule or
Yeah.
dictum. Usually, if at all MCA PSV value is in double range that of gestational age, then it is likely that baby is having anemia.
Yeah.
So in this case, there is definitely for 26, it should have been below 52, but it's more than 52. There is chances
So it's
of
definitely more than 1.5.
1.5.
Can you guess what will be the hemoglobin of this baby?
Less than 5.
Less than
5.
5.
Okay, we'll keep it a guess, we'll see. We have the hemoglobin also. Okay, so whenever there is previously affected pregnancy, so you omit all the steps of ICT and blah blah, and directly you do USG monitoring of the baby, okay? So when do you start monitoring, Sakit, in case the mother has had previously affected pregnancy?
So 16 weeks onwards, we start monitoring with the MCA PSV.
Yeah, so we start from 16 weeks or 10 weeks prior to the previous affection. So why do we do MCA Doppler, Prathna?
Because the vessel that is closed for the ultrasound probe for us to monitor easily with the correct angle for us to measure, and the blood velocity of course gives us clue about the possibility of developing fetal anemia.
Okay. Why do we need to see peak systolic velocity?
For the same reason, because of the anemia, the thickening of the blood was what we are looking at here, and that's why the flow of the blood through the vessel is going to change, modify because of the increased viscosity of the blood.
Viscosity, yes. So there is hyperdynamic circulation whenever the baby is anemic. So we see the systolic velocity. Okay. So how is the management based on MCA PSV value? Pooja.
We will, if it is more than 1.5 mom, it indicates that it's a severe anemia, moderate to severe anemia. And
Sakit, you want to add?
I didn't get the question.
So based on MCA PSV value, how will you manage the patient?
So if the MCA PSV, we start monitoring, as I said, from 16 weeks onwards, and if we always look at the trend of the MCA PSV,
Yes.
how it is going throughout the pregnancy.
Yes.
If it's stable, then we can relax the monitoring a bit, or if it's in an increasing trend, we increase the surveillance. As the MCA reaches around 1.5 and crosses 1.5 moms, that's when we call that this fetus is moderate to severe anemic, and then we have to plan the transfusion.
Transfusion, right. So if it is less than 1.5, no need for close monitoring. If it is more than 1.5 and more than 35 weeks, what will you do?
The sensitivity of the MCA is less after 35 weeks, so we have to discuss with the couple. Depending on the obstetric history, we have to take the call for delivery.
Yes. So if it is less than 35 weeks, we'll plan the transfusion. Yes. So what are the blood requirements for intrauterine transfusion? Raviraj.
Ma'am, it should be, what we give is RH O negative blood group.
Okay.
If it's a rhesus antibody related issues, or we are planning IUT, it is O negative, double packed, and infection screening done. It should be freshly prepared, means within 5 to 7 days, and leukodepleted and gamma irradiated.
Yeah. So only RBCs should be there.
What should be the hematocrit of that?
Yes.
What
Very
should be the
important.
Hematocrit.
Hematocrit, high hematocrit, because it should be double packed.
Yeah, it should be more than 70.
More than 70.
Okay, so this is the tray we need for intrauterine transfusion. Sakit, can you explain?
Well, starting from the painting and draping, the set we have, then we use a 22 gauge spinal needle in case we need to give a fetal paralysis, which is not in all the cases, depending upon the access which we are taking. Especially for the intra-abdominal or the transhepatic abscess, we use the fetal paralysis. And paralytic we can use, I prefer using atracurium because it's a short-acting paralytic agent, and transfusions generally are over in less than half an hour. So Atracurem is effective in most of the times, and dose is calculated as 0.4 mg per kg, body weight of the baby. So you have to actually titrate the dose by mixing normal saline into it. And then that's the BT set and a 10 ml syringe. So
why do we need syringe?
a 10 ml syringe is either for heparinizing the 10 ml syringe, it
Why
can be
you will
used
need
for
it?
transfusing
Ah.
the
Measure the aliquots,
blood,
how
yeah.
many we have used.
Yeah.
And
So why don't you connect the blood set directly to the needle?
because we need to know accurately how much volume we are giving in
Absolutely.
this transfusion, because
Every-
every ml
Correct,
counts,
correct.
and a little extra can lead to grave consequences which
Yes.
we don't want. So
Yes.
that's why we use a 10 ml syringe, and again a 3-way is used for the same purpose,
Yeah.
so that the blood can be aspirated from the blood bag and then given to the baby in a very systematic manner.
And 20G needle?
The 20G needle is used for
Transfusing.
the transfusion purpose to,
And last
to
2
gain an
cc?
intravenous access.
And the last 2 cc syringe?
So the 2 cc syringes, we may require multiple of them. First is, as soon as we enter the intravenous circulation, we take the first sample to know the hematocrit and the hemoglobin of the baby, based on which we will be calculating the dose of or the amount of the blood to be transfused. And the next 2 cc syringe is used at the end of the procedure, where again we'll be doing a post-transfusion hemoglobin and hematocrit of the baby. And sometimes it can also be used for heparinizing the 20 gauge needle which we are taking for the transfusion.
Okay, right. So what are the available access, Ankita, for IUT?
So ma'am, depending on the experience and the preference of the person who's doing IUT, it can be either in the cord or intraportal or in the peritoneum of the intraperitoneal IUT can be done.
Yeah. Intraperitoneum, we usually reserve it whenever it is very difficult IUT or you want to buy more time for the fetus. Okay? Right. So in this patient, at first IUT was done at 26 weeks. Her hemoglobin was only 3.2. Okay, not 6. And we transfused 45 ml intraportal and 63 in the umbilical vein. Intraportal, we had to shift to umbilical vein because portal vein was very, very thin and liver was floating in the ascites. Then closing hemoglobin was 10.2. Now this was the first IUT as soon as I finished my fellowship in KEM I had done. So you can see that time the hematocrit which the blood bank gave us only 55. So the blood we were giving was also not very good, okay? But you need to train your blood banks. You need to tell them how much hematocrit you need because all these points are very important, okay? So second time they increased to 60. So second IUT we gave at 29 weeks. So 3 weeks had passed and her hemoglobin also started dropping to 5.3. So what is the rate of fall of hemoglobin? How will you calculate that, Raviraj?
Fall of hemoglobin usually is, as per hematocrit concern, 1% per day.
Yes. So 1% or 0.1 mg
0.1 mg.
per day. So accordingly, then it had fallen to 5.3 again, and then again we had to transfuse her. 90 plus 30 ml we had transfused. And we also tapped the ascitic fluid, and the closing hematocrit was 13. So now she was 29 weeks. So 29 weeks her ascites gradually resolved. Okay, now since it was the first IUT in KEM, the obstetrician were concerned कि बाबा क्या कर रहे हो तुम इतने IUTs क्यों दे रहे हो? Let us deliver. The pediatric team said we will handle the baby no matter what. You just give us the baby. Okay, so the baby was delivered in preterm. They did not listen to us for third IUT. Okay, so baby was delivered for full-term emergency LSCS because NST was non-reactive. They are very keen on doing the NSTs in hydropic babies. Okay, so male child 1.3 kg, weak cry, poor respiratory effort. Surfactant was given because of hyaline membrane disease. Mechanical ventilation baby required for 1 week. CPAP for 2 weeks. Baby was put on inotropes. Baby required 3 exchange transfusion in 24 hours and 2 top-up because they didn't want to do 1 IUT more.
Yes.
Okay?
That's the thing.
And baby was discharged after 1 month of stormy NICU stay. Now we come to the fourth case. She is G8, no live issue, O negative. All 7 losses were due to IUD or neonatal death. She was from a peripheral village. So, but in all her pregnancies, she had received anti-D. Okay. Now she had come to us at 26 weeks with ICT positive. Her scan was normal, growth was normal, MCA PSV was 1.5 mom. Now what will you do next? Ankita.
Ma'am, last 5 minutes.
We need to do the titers in this case and also the antibody panel to know which antibody, if it is any antibody other than RHD.
Saket, would you differ in this? Previous affected pregnancy, MCA PSV 1.5 mom, no evidence of hydrops.
So yeah, probably she's already a sensitized pregnancy.
Yes.
And since the MCA PSV is more than 1.5 moms, of course IUT, it is an indication for IUT. But before that, I would still want to do a maternal antibody screening, complete antibody screening, because I want to know that there's no other antibody other than anti-D.
So it is D antigen. It is D.
Then we'll plan a IUT and we'll cross-match the sample with the maternal antibodies.
Yeah.
And then we can go ahead with the IUT.
Yeah. So we called her after 3 days because that is the time the family also takes. We had counseled her, they had to make the decision. So now the MCA PSV was 1.7 mom and there was no high drops as yet. So this is the right time to give the IUT. So IUT has to be given at the onset of anemia and before the onset of high drops, right? So we gave her first IUT at 26 weeks, where opening hemoglobin was 6.6. Okay, there is no high drops, so hemoglobin was 6.6. And closing was 19. Second IUT, now the gynacs were confident on us after so many IUTs. They decided, okay, chalo, de do. 34 weeks, we gave the second IUT. And the opening hemoglobin was 8.8 and closing was 16. Okay, so can you explain pre-IUT and post-IUT transfusion pictures to the audience? Pooja. So above ones are pre-IUT and the lower ones are post-IUT.
Yeah, in pre-IUT, there is a ascites, pleural effusion, and in post-IUT, there is no pleural effusion, no ascites.
Right. So with IUTs, the ascites has resolved, pleural effusion has resolved. The cardiac status does take time to resolve, but usually within 4 to 6 weeks, it starts recovering. Okay. So this lady delivered at 37 completed week, full-term normal delivery, hemodynamically stable, received only phototherapy. The baby received only phototherapy and a single top-up transfusion and was discharged from NICU after 3 days. So there's a lot of difference in the first case and the second case, where the importance of delivery at the term and IUTs have been explained.
And this also speaks of the importance of fetal medicine specialist who has got expertise in IUT. And I really appreciate Shweta for doing all this good work.
Thank you.
And it shows that it's always better to correct the anemia and then deliver, rather than delivering the anemic baby.
Right. So even if the pediatrician says, "Hum log dekh lenge," we have to see before that. So the take-home messages.
We will take it from the panelists.
Yeah.
I think we will take the take-home messages from the panelists. Start with Prarthana.
ICT positive is just beginning.
After ICT, if ICT is positive, it should be followed by antibody titer, and that titer, the method of the titer should be mentioned in the report.
Right.
Yes,
Ankita.
Ankita. Next message.
It is important to know the antibody which has affected.
If the facilities are available, please do it.
Pooja.
Early detection of fetal anemia by MCA PSV.
Yes, Saket.
Yeah, if it's less than 35 weeks, if 1.5 MCA PSV mom is more than 1.5 moms, we have to plan a IUT because we should not wait for high drops to develop before planning
Yes,
the intervention.
absolutely. So
should be-
it is very important that the gynecologist pick up that time and send it to us so we can timely manage the baby.
Yes, actually, we must thank all the fetal medicine specialists who really have contributed to this RH ISO immunization by, giving the fetal therapy. And we are here in Sholapur also, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Ajit Gandhi here, who has done more than 250 intrauterine transfusion.
Oh.
Unfortunately, he's not here today because of his family commitments. But I really appreciate all of you who are doing all these therapies, including Shweta. And we all have now reached,
Yeah,
what I should say that it has really evolved,
Right,
the
ma'am.
management of RH ISO immunization.
right.
So thank you very much
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
with us. It was great having you. Thank you, audience, for being there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, sir. Now I would like to ask Dr. Rohini Deshpande, ma'am, to felicitate Dr. Pooja Pable.
Rohini ma'am, Dr. Shweta ma'am, and I will request Milind Shah sir and Ghate madam to please join us for the felicitation of our panelists today. Dr. Pratna Shah. Dr. Pooja Pable. Dr. Saket Thakar. Dr. Raviraj Gondkar sir. And Dr. Ankita Deshmukh. ma'am. We now request Dr. Milind Shah sir to please felicitate our moderators, Dr. Rohini madam and Dr. Shweta Surana ma'am.
Friends are actually society's treasure of the academics. And especially Rohini, whenever I ask her any assignment, she never says no. She's always ready with the wonderful preparation. And that's what our strength is. And that's why people always appreciate Solapur OBGY Society. Thank you very much, Rohini, Shweta. And it,
Appreciate Dr. Shweta because she has given so many nice inputs and presented the cases in real. That is what it is. Thank you, Shweta, for being with us.
the next round, yeah. Come. Yeah. Fine, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. लाड़की बहन सर की लाड़की लेके जाऊँ. Good.
Thank you everyone. We move forward to the next academic session.